But the encouraging part is that 25% of investment volume actually comes from corporates in the ecosystem, and also that 42% of all CVCs actually likes to co-invest.
Because corporates are, I mean, as Jeppe said, they're a large investor, but the thing about it is that corporates are also a crazy amount of how the economy runs today, obviously. Like, there are ways of, like a Tesla or whatever, building a car out of nowhere, but hey, why not take an automaker who's really great and actually make them, like, do it, right?
Mic check. Oh, welcome to EUVC Live at The Drop.
Powered
by Woven Capital.
So Hampus, I said I wanted to talk to you about two things. One is AI. Surprisingly, none of the other people that we invited on stage today said they wanted to talk about AI. So that was a beautiful topic that we should touch on. But tying it into what Jeppe just said around the corporates in our ecosystem, they make up a substantial part of investment activity in Europe, 25% by many accounts. Why do you think that the drop is important, and where do corporate venture fit in this?
Yeah, no, and I think that I was actually super public about it last year, but actually declined corporate ventures to come. And the reason was because I had a long and scarred history of investing, like 150 plus angel investments and a couple of funds I've been at, and I looked in a couple of funds. And there's one thing that was clear the last 20, 30 years was like, you bring in a CVC and then the manager leaves or the CEO changes or it's not strategic. And like, you know, like there's so many companies I've been in where they've hunted down the CFO for a signature to close that A round because the CVC or B round, whatever, because the CVC doesn't bother anymore. And you're now past the legal team and they're like, the startup's almost dying if they can't do the final signature. And so like I had all those scars. And then during the drop years, people always like, am I on? CVCs are working for climate. And I'm like, I'm too scarred. And last year I wrote a LinkedIn profile. That's it. And I had, I don't know, 50 plus calls with people who explain differently. And I write a summary for myself every year of things that I changed my mind on.
No, and one of the things I wrote in my notes were that I was completely wrong about that. So then after New Year, I was really thinking, okay, so I had a lot of more like, you know, personal and intimate and interesting stuff I was wrong about as well. But I was wrong about that. And I was thinking, okay, so at the drop, what do we do? So then we decided to have a pre-day for corporates and really say, like, how do we involve corporates and corporate ventures? Because corporates are, I mean, as Jeppe said, they're a large investor. But the thing about it is that corporates are also a crazy amount of how the economy runs today, obviously. Like, there are ways of, like a Tesla or whatever, building a car out of nowhere, but hey, why not take an automaker who's really great and actually make them, like, do it, right? And the same with anything, like construction or like absolutely every single industry is way better to improve an existing industry with all the might and power and knowledge they have, and instead of like just trying to just believe we can build a completely new way of building buildings or whatever. And I think that was really a like epiphany for me. So I was thinking, how do we do that? And I think it is still not uncomplicated. And I think the thing for me is like, I wish we had a better way to explain corporate venture so that the startup understood it better, so that the GPs at the, like whatever you call it, like the financially driven fund or whatever, that they understand it better. Because there's such a gradient from corporate ventures that invest from the balance sheet, highly strategical, decided and signed by the CFO, to all the way on the other sector where it's a spun-out fund. That's sure they only have one, or they might have multiple LPs, but like here you have single LP fund, financial returns, and the whole span, right? And I think that I wish we were better as an industry to explain where we are on the spectrum, because they're all values, right? Like, I mean, I today talked with a friend who's joined a massive construction company. Like, I don't remember the numbers now, 15,000 people in Germany. They built Potsdamer Platz, they built like Hauptbahnhof, they built, yes, Berlin Airport as well. But like one of our companies is like a next-gen cement company. And I saw them and I introduced them. And Marta, the CEO of the company, was like, is this real? Like, you're like our ideal customer. And he was like, yeah. Like, you know, so like it's so stupid that she would think, I mean, or she doesn't, of course, she's smart, but that I would think that the best person to sell to if you're a cement company would be like another startup. Obviously not. Like, it's the people who build like the Potsdamer Platz of the world that you need to talk to, and who is better than to have them to get an incentive. And to round that off, like my first company, we worked with massive corporates. Like our average sales time was 18 months. So yes, enterprise sales and massive corporates. And our average contract value was like 7 million euros or something. So massive. Most of our customers were just like, sign the papers and put a lot of covenants around it. Motorola did something super smart. They said, hey, we want to invest in Pilbodot, in TAT, but we understand that we can't invest in TAT because it's going to be spook off Nokia and Samsung and Google and everyone else. So they said, can we get like a warrant that for every 1 million phones we ship with your software, we get an option to buy this many shares at exit only. Like at exit, like nothing in between. Like we have no information, right? Nothing. We gave them that option. They shipped enormous amount of phones with us. Really, like we were great. Like they were super incentivized. The board knew that this is like the one we're kind of backing. When we got acquired by BlackBerry, all the software they've ever bought from us and all the services they've ever done for them was free. Because of the acquisition, they got all the money back. So like for us, it was like we were super aligned with Motorola because we were trying to figure out how to get into their biggest platforms because we wanted the royalty. They were incentivized because they knew that one day we would exit and then they would get tons of money back. And it was one of those things that I thought it was such a great partnership. And it was done by them knowing that if we're their investors, Samsung will not be able to work with us anymore. So it was really one of those things that we intelligently talked together. How do we do this? And there's so many of our startups that today, what I advise them about this is really trying to figure out where the company, the CVC or the corporate is in the spectrum and how to collaborate. And that a rose is not a rose is not a rose. A CVC is not a CVC. Depends. Is it strategic? Is it is it financial? Is it like to learn? What is it? And I think that's the thing I wish we had more language about. That was a long answer. I should have said no or yes or something, I guess. Yes.
I was just about to say that this is a typical interview with Hampus because
Yeah,
I get to ask one question, half the time is gone.
Yeah,
so I'll
sorry.
already now go to our other topic.
You can choose any topic.
I'll go to AI now. I want to ask you, how does AI change the game that's on the field in climate?
Yeah. Okay. So I actually did my degree in AI. It's like, I know it's 25 years ago and it was not called AI, but yeah. No, but the thing is, I think so fascinating right now that we're talking so much about at Pilbodot about is the fact that AI really changes both the demand part and the solution part of the problem. Like obviously AI will be, I don't know, 10%, 20%, 30%, 50% of the world's energy demands. And the headache is when you're scaling a demand that quickly, you cannot have it on grid. The grid is the largest machine humanity's ever built, like physical machine. Like the financial market might be bigger intangibly, but the thing about it is that you can't put like gigawatt plants like this on the grid. It doesn't work that way. So we'll have to figure out off grid, which is just super exciting, just economically how that works, and of course on grid. And if it's inference, you have people will do it. If it's training, you can do it off grid. All of that is something I think we're just not thinking enough about. Then the other thing I find, like if you look at the solution side on climate, then people are so oversimplifying it because essentially they're just saying, oh, we have AI, it will solve it. And for me, I always try to talk about when I talk to a startup or anyone else about that, it's like, is this like the PhD in the cloud, like the crazy magic that nobody, like the material, the material science company that we meet that can just make a novel plastic, AI makes it, nobody understands it. Is it that company? I personally, I think those are going to be far and few between because it's very messy. There's a lot of details. It's really messy. The company I love are the 1,000 free interns. It is the company where it's a waste management software company business. Waste management is one of those industries which is it's hard to actually make the economy work and you're up against big encumbrance or whatever. But then you add software to make it better. But if you start adding AI, which means that you can do data cleaning, ESG reporting for free, you can figure out the sites, you can route planning, bit by bit, you're improving your margins 2 or 3, 4, 5, 7, and suddenly you're up at 18%. And the cool thing about old industries is that TAM is insane. It's so much better to go into an old industry and do that. Every time you build a building, right? I think about this all the time. When you build a new property, I know that most properties are already built in the world, but if you build a new property, there's so many rules about oh, this is where the ventilation shaft is, this is where the bathroom is, this is where the toilet is, this is where so many rules, right? I'm not smart enough to put all the rules. I'm not an architect, obviously, but I can't put all those rules in my head and look at this thing and say if it works. This is what's called a compiler. It's a super simple problem for AI. Just take that thing and say, boom, here are the errors, here are the warnings, please fix, and I can move them for you. Which means that we can optimally design buildings, envelope design, wind, all of these things are not PhD in the cloud. They're just like 1,000 free interns that just like, and I think that's really what excites me. So like, I wish that more people who talked about AI talked about how the heck do we solve off-grid energy production, be it solar or be it nuclear, whatever. And the other one is like, how do we actually deploy more 1,000 free interns to solve all the problems that are not profitable enough to solve now with our mindset? But if you have 1,000 free interns, of course you can. So that excites me so much. And what I'm also saying is, I wish there were not as many startups who said the AI will solve it problem. Like I don't believe in that. So yeah.
Hampus, I made it to give you 2 questions.
Oh,
I
great.
don't want to go
Sorry.
further. Thank you so much, my
Thank
friend.
you.
I
Long
think you
answers,
gave
I'm
a
sorry.
strong thesis.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming to the drop. I'm super, super happy, and I'm also going to be super happy tomorrow at lunch when it definitely is over. But thank you very much, and thank you for all you who did side events, ripples. And I mean, some of you have been here from year 0. I mean, the 2150 people are like Amy and a couple others. I mean, like from day 0, it hurts. And like, it's crazy to see people coming back year after year and us trying to improve it slightly every year. So thank you very much. And thank you for doing this.